Bum ba bum bum ba bum bum. Hello and welcome to another episode of What's Gone Wrong as we look at NHL teams down and then having had previous success and now struggling to match up to that success. Last time we looked at the San Jose Sharks, this time it's the Winnipeg Jets. And what's wrong with the Winnipeg Jets, I hear you say? Why, they're only 3 points outside of a wildcard spot? Well, I'm going to try and break it down into 5 reasons why I think it's gone wrong for the Winnipeg Jets. Number 1, current form. The current form of Winnipeg is atrocious, especially compared to how they started the season. They started the season pretty well. They, in their last 11 games, have gone 3 wins, 7 defeats, 1 overtime loss. That's bad in anyone's book. It's not playoff form. It's not going to get you into the playoffs. It's not going to get you where you finished last season. 2, raise expectations. The last 2 years, Winnipeg have made the playoffs. That's not a usual occurrence compared to what's gone before. It certainly isn't a usual occurrence for them to make the Western Conference Final, which they did in 2018. By doing that, they raised the bar for seasons to come, and they didn't manage to match it last year, and that was quite disappointing, and I don't think they've really gotten over that disappointment. 3, defense. Defense is bad. Defense has been left with so many holes that Hellebuck in goal cannot possibly plug all the gaps. Lemieux was allowed to go. Myers went. The replacement for Lemieux in Hayes, the trade, that didn't work because Hayes has gone to the Philadelphia Flyers now. Trouba also allowed to go to New York. And I guess there was almost this sort of reliance on, it's okay, we've got Dustin Byfuglien, so it's fine, we can afford to lose 1 or 2. Which might have worked had Dustin Byfuglien not decided to basically go AWOL on the first day of training camp. And indeed has not played at all this season, and I would be very surprised if he suddenly came back anytime soon. So that's left huge gaps. It's meant an awful lot of reshuffling. You can't really expect the defence to gel. And yes, I suppose, inevitable results have come through. Connor Hellebuck was doing well to start the season, was keeping them in games. He's just been overworked. It's not his fault, not at all. But it is unfair to expect a goalie to pick up the slack when the defence is weakened, and in my opinion, weakened almost irreparably. This is going to take a while to fix. 4th one, record against Central Division opponents, particularly recently. In the last month or so, the Winnipeg Jets have lost twice to the St. Louis Blues. They've lost to the Minnesota Wild in overtime. They've lost to the Nashville Predators. They got shut out in their own building. They lost to Chicago in regulation. The only team they've beaten in Central Division in that little stretch is Colorado. And I think the worst thing for me is the fact that they've lost to Central Division opponents who, on the face of it, are all weaker than Winnipeg. Minnesota didn't make the playoffs last year. Neither did Chicago. Nashville seemed to be underperforming. So the only one I would really look at and go, okay, that's fair enough that you've lost to them is St. Louis. Because at the moment, everyone's losing to St. Louis, it seems like. They've got a massive lead at the top of the Central. That one's allowed. But you've got to be picking up more points. And weirdly, the 3 wins that Winnipeg have managed, none of them have been against Central opponents, and only 1 has been against the Western Conference rival. So it's very nice being able to beat the likes of Toronto, but it's not actually going to do as much good in the standings as, say, beating Minnesota would have done, or beating Nashville, or certainly beating Chicago. As it is, Winnipeg are 4th in Central, but Chicago are right behind them, and Nashville and Minnesota aren't actually that far behind. So if Winnipeg do want to improve, that's something they need to look on. And the 5th reason I think that it's gone wrong, they're not particularly intimidating at home anymore. That needs to be fixed because you can't allow teams even as good as Tampa to come into your place and whack you 7-1 because it just completely removes the fear factor. Everyone else is going to go, well, if Tampa can come in, ride a little bit of the storm and then take it to pieces, why can't we? And if Tampa can get a 2-0, and your defence basically goes AWOL, then that's very encouraging for any opponents to my World Cup. And if an underperforming Nashville Predators can come into your building and shut you out and only need 1 goal to win, then again, the fear factor goes. Last season, Winnipeg were able to completely maul teams like Anaheim, and it's just not happening this year. And I guess if I'm going to add maybe like a 6th reason, not scoring first. Allowing the opposition to take the lead and sort of therefore having to chase the game. It happened against us, Tampa, it happened against Chicago, it happened against Carolina. In the last 4 games, the only team it didn't happen against was Columbus. And unsurprisingly, that was Winnipeg's best performance and probably their best chance to get a point out of those 4 games. They came close, didn't quite happen, but still, it's remarkable how much of a difference it made to their overall performance. The other 3 were heavy losses. Columbus one at least was close and maybe a little bit unlucky not to get a point. I think it's fair to sort of take a bit of context and say that Winnipeg are not doing nearly as badly as San Jose, and the goaltending is definitely better than San Jose's, but still, I think it's realistic to say they probably will miss the playoffs unless, by some miracle, that defect gets fixed. I think until that sort of defensive, sort of management and sort of, a new style of play that doesn't involve sort of having a massive Dustin Bufflin unit of a player who can sort of put on multiple hits. Until you sort of come up with a different way of playing defensively, nothing's going to change. And it's probably going to get worse before it gets better. But I would say the next 3 games are pretty big for Winnipeg. They've got St. Louis twice, and they've also got Boston. So winning any of those would be a boost. But I think the one upside for Winnipeg is that a lot of their next 10 games, pretty much all the next 10 games, are at home. So if they can take advantage of that and have a decent homestand, then maybe I'll be proved wrong, and maybe come April we'll see them in the playoffs again. But for now, the Jets are grounded. Thank you, and see you next time.